Atlanta's hidden empire, the real power behind America's Black Mecca. You know, when people think of Atlanta, they immediately picture hip-hop culture and reality TV stars. The city's reputation has been shaped by the entertainment industry, the music videos, the celebrity mansions in Buckhead, the reality shows that showcase opulent lifestyles. There's Outkast and Ludacris. There's the Real Housewives franchise. There's the image of champagne bottles popping in strip clubs and luxury cars rolling down Peachtree Street. But honestly, that's just the surface, and it's actually a pretty misleading picture of what's really happening in this city. Beneath all that glitz and glamour, there's something far more substantial happening. We're talking about real economic powerhouses that have been building generational wealth for decades, operating in sectors that don't make headlines, but generate the kind of money that actually changes communities and builds lasting legacies. Atlanta has earned its reputation as America's Black Mecca, and it's not just a catchy phrase that people throw around at conferences or in think pieces. This city has become the epicenter of Black family dynasties that have completely transformed how we think about wealth building in America. When we look at the history of Black wealth in this country, we often hear about the success stories that fit neatly into entertainment narratives. The athletes, the musicians, the entertainers who made it big. And while those stories are important and inspiring, they're also incomplete. They don't tell us about the families who built construction empires, who control critical infrastructure, who own the facilities that serve millions of people every single day. These aren't stories about individual success or celebrity fortunes that can vanish in a generation. This is about families who've taken their wealth and scaled it to institutional levels, creating entire ecosystems that will sustain generations to come. We're talking about businesses that have survived recessions, that have navigated changing political landscapes, that have built relationships with governments and corporations that span decades. This is the kind of wealth that doesn't depend on staying famous or staying relevant in popular culture. This is the kind of wealth that's embedded in the infrastructure of American life itself. So where exactly is this money coming from? We're seeing Black wealth in Atlanta flowing through construction, infrastructure development, real estate, beauty industry, media production, and even airport franchises. The really fascinating part is how these families have cemented their power through land deeds, government contracts, and billion-dollar acquisitions. This isn't luck. This is strategic empire building. When you control land, you control development. When you control development, you control economic growth. When you secure government contracts, you're tapping into consistent, reliable revenue streams that aren't subject to market whims or consumer trends. When you make billion-dollar acquisitions, you're not just buying assets, you're buying market position, you're buying strategic advantage, you're buying the ability to shape entire industries. Let me walk you through some of these dynasties because their stories are absolutely remarkable. Each one represents a different pathway to wealth, a different strategic vision, and a different way of thinking about what it means to build something that lasts. The Levett Family, building legacy through service. Take the Levett Family, ranked 7th on the list. They built one of Atlanta's largest funeral home and crematorium chains. Now you might think that's a modest business, or perhaps even a morbid one to focus on, but hear me out. The funeral industry is one of the most recession-proof, stable business sectors in American capitalism. It's a service that every family eventually needs, regardless of economic conditions, regardless of technological disruption, regardless of changing consumer preferences. Death, as they say, is one of the only certainties in life, and the Levett family recognized this fundamental truth and built an empire around it. They started in 1980 with a single 5,000 square foot chapel. Picture that moment, 1980 Atlanta, a city in transition, a Black family deciding to enter an industry that was predominantly white-owned at the time, especially at the higher end of the market. This wasn't just a business decision. It was a bet on the future of Black Atlanta, a belief that Black families would want and could afford premium funeral services. that they deserved dignity and elegance in their moments of grief, and that there was a market gap that needed to be filled. Today, they're operating luxury facilities ranging from 9,000 to 12,000 square feet across 4 different locations. These aren't just funeral homes, they're architectural statements. They're spaces designed to provide comfort, to accommodate large family gatherings, to handle multiple services simultaneously, to offer every amenity a grieving family might need. We're talking about facilities with multiple chapels, spacious viewing rooms, comfortable family areas, state-of-the-art cremation facilities, and professional staff trained to handle every aspect of funeral planning and execution. They serve over 2,200 families annually, generating tens of millions in revenue. Think about what that number means. That's 2,200 families in their most vulnerable moments, 2,200 opportunities to provide comfort and service, 2,200 chances to build trust and reputation. In the funeral industry, word of mouth is everything. Families remember how they were treated during the worst days of their lives, and they share those experiences with others. The Levett family has built a reputation for excellence that spans generations now. Families come back to them again and again because their grandparents were served there, because their parents chose them, because they trust the name. But here's what really sets them apart. They've turned this into a premium logistics and service economy. The modern funeral industry isn't just about the service itself. It's about coordinating with hospitals, coordinating with cemeteries and crematoriums, handling transportation, managing paperwork, navigating insurance claims, dealing with government death certificates, coordinating with religious leaders and venues, managing floral arrangements, coordinating catering, and providing grief counseling and support services. It's an incredibly complex logistical operation, and the Levett family has mastered every aspect of it. They've built systems and processes that ensure consistency, quality, and dignity across thousands of services. Plus, they've donated over $1 million and have their name preserved in a hospital emergency department. That's not just business. That's legacy building and institutional credibility. When you have your name on a hospital emergency department, you're making a statement about your values and your commitment to the community. You're ensuring that your family name will be associated with saving lives, not just honoring death. You're building relationships with healthcare institutions that can lead to referrals, partnerships, and community standing that money alone can't buy. This is how institutional power is built, not just through profit, but through strategic philanthropy that enhances both community well-being and family reputation. The Levett family understood something crucial about wealth building. It's not enough to make money. You have to embed yourself in the community infrastructure. You have to become essential. You have to be the name that people trust when they're at their most vulnerable. And you have to give back in ways that ensure your legacy extends beyond your business operations. Mack Wilbourn, the power of captive markets. Then there's Mack Wilbourn, sitting at number 6. This guy owns the Popeyes and Checkers franchises at Atlanta's airport. And get this, some of the highest grossing Popeyes locations in the world belong to him. Let that sink in for a moment. In the entire Popeyes global empire, which spans thousands of locations across multiple countries, some of the top-performing restaurants are the ones operated by Mack Wilbourn at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. He got his start back in 1971 with one of the first minority-owned McDonald's franchises. Think about what that means historically. In 1971, the civil rights movement had just achieved its major legislative victories, but economic integration was still very much a work in progress. Major corporations were just beginning to think about diversity in franchise ownership, and McDonald's was one of the pioneers in this area. Wilbourn was part of that first wave, and he understood immediately what the opportunity represented. Owning a McDonald's franchise in the early 1970s wasn't just about selling hamburgers. It was about learning systems, about understanding supply chain management, about mastering customer service at scale, about dealing with corporate structures, about managing employees, about understanding real estate and location strategy. It was like getting an MBA in business operations, except you were getting paid to learn. Now he's collecting passive income from a captive audience economy. Think about it. Millions of travelers passing through one of the world's busiest airports, and he's positioned right there to serve them. Hartsfield-Jackson is the busiest airport in the world by passenger traffic. We're talking about over 100 million passengers annually, every single one of them a potential customer. And here's the beautiful part about airport concessions. People don't have alternatives. They can't just decide to go to the Popeyes down the street if the line is too long. They're captive, they're hungry, they're time-constrained, and they're willing to pay premium prices for convenience. The genius of Wilbourn's strategy is in understanding location-based economics. While other franchisees were competing in saturated urban markets or trying to build traffic in suburban locations, Wilbourn identified that airport concessions represented a unique opportunity. Yes, the franchise fees are higher. Yes, the rent is astronomical. Yes, the operating costs are through the roof because everything has to be brought through airport security and logistics. But the revenue potential is also exponentially higher. An airport Popeyes location might do in one day what a regular location does in a week. But it goes deeper than just revenue. Airport concessions are incredibly stable businesses. Recessions happen, consumer preferences change, neighborhoods gentrify or decline, but people keep flying. Business travel continues. Families still take vacations, and all those people still need to eat while they're waiting for their flights. During the COVID-19 pandemic, when so many restaurants failed, airport concessions suffered but survived. And as travel recovered, they came roaring back stronger than ever. Wilbourn also understood brand power. He didn't try to create his own restaurant concept and compete for limited airport space against established brands. He aligned himself with proven concepts, Popeyes and Checkers, that already had national recognition, established supply chains, tested menu items, and corporate marketing support. He took the entrepreneurial risk in location and operations, but he minimized the risk in concept and brand. That's smart business. And let's talk about what passive income really means in this context. Wilbourn has built operational systems and management teams that can run these restaurants without his day-to-day involvement. He's not flipping chicken in the kitchen or working the cash register. He's built a business that generates wealth while he sleeps, while he travels, while he pursues other opportunities. That's the dream of every entrepreneur, to build something that works without you having to work in it. This is the power of understanding market dynamics, strategic location choice, and operational excellence. Wilbourn built his empire not by being the flashiest entrepreneur or the most innovative concept creator, but by being in the right place at the right time with the right systems. Sometimes the path to wealth isn't about reinventing the wheel, it's about finding the best hill to roll the wheel down. The Bronner family. Vertical integration in beauty. The Bronner family, ranked 5th, runs Bronner Brothers, one of the largest Black-owned hair and skincare brands in the United States. The hair care industry for Black consumers is massive. We're talking about a multi-billion-dollar market that for decades was underserved by mainstream beauty brands. Black women spend more on beauty products than any other demographic in America, and the specific needs of Black hair and skin were largely ignored by major corporations until relatively recently. The Bronner family saw this opportunity early and built a company that didn't just make products, but actually understood the community it served. They created formulations specifically designed for Black hair textures, understanding that what works for straight European hair doesn't work for coily, kinky African hair. They built a brand that Black women could trust, that understood their needs, that spoke to their experiences, and that celebrated their beauty rather than trying to change it to fit European standards. But they didn't stop at just selling products, and that's what makes their story so compelling. They vertically integrated the entire industry by hosting beauty trade shows that attract between 40,000 to 70,000 participants, and they publish industry magazines. This is the definition of vertical integration, controlling every level of an industry from production to education to distribution to media. Let's break down what those trade shows represent. When you can attract 40,000 to 70,000 people to a single event, you're not just hosting a conference, you're creating an ecosystem. These shows bring together manufacturers, distributors, salon owners, stylists, beauty school students, and consumers all in one place. They're educational events where stylists learn new techniques and get certified in new products. They're marketplaces where salon owners discover new products and negotiate deals with distributors. They're networking events where industry relationships are built and maintained. They're trend-setting venues where new styles and products are launched and showcased. And here's the economic power of it. The Bronner family controls the platform. They decide which vendors get premium booth space. They decide which products get featured in demonstrations. They decide which stylists get showcased on the main stage. They decide which trends get highlighted in their media coverage. That's not just business. That's influencing an entire industry's direction. That's the power to make or break new product launches, to elevate certain brands over others, to shape what becomes popular and what fades into obscurity. The publishing component is equally strategic. By producing industry magazines, they control the narrative. They decide which salons get profiled, which stylists become famous, which products get positive coverage, which techniques become must-know skills for stylists. They've positioned themselves as the authoritative voice in Black beauty, and that authority translates directly into economic power. We're talking about a beauty ecosystem that generates $60 million in annual impact. But that number doesn't fully capture the influence. When you control the education system, the distribution network, and the media narrative in an industry, you have power that goes far beyond just selling shampoo and conditioner. You're shaping culture. You're determining standards. You're deciding what beauty looks like for an entire community. The Bronner family also understood something crucial about brand loyalty in the Black community. When Black consumers find a brand that works for them, that understands them, that's made by people who look like them, they become incredibly loyal customers. They don't just buy the product, they become advocates. They tell their friends, their family members, their salon clients. They become part of a community around the brand. The Bronner family has cultivated this loyalty for decades, building generational customer relationships where daughters use the same products their mothers used. They've also been smart about diversifying their product lines. They're not just in hair care. They've expanded into skin care, understanding that Black beauty is holistic. They've created professional lines for salons and consumer lines for retail. They've developed premium luxury products and affordable everyday essentials. They've created products for natural hair and products for chemically treated hair, understanding that Black women have diverse hair journeys and shouldn't have to choose between embracing natural textures and exploring different styles. This is what controlling an entire sector looks like. It's not just about having the best product or the most market share. It's about owning the infrastructure, the events, the media, the education systems, the distribution networks that make the entire industry function. The Bronner family has built something that would be incredibly difficult for any competitor to replicate because you can't just launch a product and compete with them. You'd have to build an entire parallel ecosystem, and that takes decades and hundreds of millions of dollars. The Russell family, building Atlanta's skyline. At number 3, we have the Russell family with H.J. Russell and Company. If you've been to Atlanta, you've seen their work. They're the contractors behind Coca-Cola headquarters, the Georgia Dome, Turner Field, and the Atlanta Airport expansions. These are some of the most iconic structures in the city. The Russell family has literally built Atlanta's skyline and infrastructure. That's institutional power on a massive scale. Herman J. Russell, the family patriarch who founded the company, started with a small plastering business. This was in the 1950s, when opportunities for Black contractors were extremely limited. Major projects went to white-owned firms almost exclusively. Black contractors, if they could get work at all, were usually limited to small residential projects in black neighborhoods. The idea of a black-owned firm handling major commercial projects, government contracts, or iconic corporate headquarters was virtually unthinkable. But Russell had vision, skill, and determination. He built his reputation project by project, starting small but always delivering quality work on time and on budget. He understood that in the construction business, your reputation is everything. One missed deadline, one shoddy job, one cost overrun, and you might never get another opportunity. So he was meticulous, he was reliable, he built relationships, and slowly he started getting bigger contracts. The bigger picture. What these stories tell us. What strikes me most about all these families is how they've moved beyond simply making money. They're building institutions, creating jobs, controlling supply chains, and establishing legacies that will outlast them by generations. This is what generational wealth actually looks like when it's done right. It's not about flashy cars and jewelry. It's about infrastructure, contracts, real estate, and owning entire ecosystems. Each of these families took a different path, but they all share some common characteristics. First, they identified opportunities in sectors that are essential, stable, and difficult for competitors to disrupt. Funeral services, airport concessions, beauty industry infrastructure, construction and real estate, and media production are all industries with high barriers to entry and sustainable competitive advantages. Second, they didn't just participate in their industries, they worked to control them. The Levett family didn't just open a funeral home. They built a chain and established dominance in their market. Mack Wilbourn didn't just operate one franchise. He secured prime locations in one of the world's busiest transportation hubs. The Bronner family didn't just make hair care products. They built an ecosystem of trade shows, media, and education that makes them central to the entire industry. The Russell family didn't just do construction, they built the landmarks that define Atlanta's skyline. Tyler Perry didn't just make movies, he built a studio larger than the Hollywood legends. Third, they all understood the importance of relationships and reputation. These families built trust over decades. They delivered quality consistently. They became names that people knew and respected. They cultivated relationships with government officials, corporate executives, community leaders, and customers. They understood that in business, your reputation is your most valuable asset, and once it's damaged, it's almost impossible to rebuild. Fourth, they were patient and strategic. None of these empires were built overnight. The Levett family started with one chapel in 1980 and expanded over 40-plus years. Mack Wilbourn got his start in 1971 and built his airport empire over 5 decades. The Bronner family has been in the beauty business for generations. H.J. Russell founded his company in the 1950s. Tyler Perry spent years doing stage plays before transitioning to film and then building his studio. These are stories of sustained effort, strategic patience, and long-term vision. Fifth, they reinvested in their communities and in Black economic empowerment more broadly. The Levett family made major philanthropic contributions. Mack Wilbourn was a pioneer in minority franchise ownership. The Bronner family has educated and employed thousands of Black beauty professionals. The Russell family has subcontracted to Black-owned firms and mentored emerging contractors. Tyler Perry has created opportunities for Black actors, directors, writers, and crew members throughout the entertainment industry. They understood that building individual wealth while the community remains poor is neither sustainable nor satisfying. Sixth, they adapted to changing conditions. These families have survived recessions, technological changes, demographic shifts, and political transformations. They've proven that they can navigate uncertainty and emerge stronger. They've diversified their businesses, evolved their strategies, and stayed relevant across generations. Atlanta's story is really about how Black entrepreneurship has evolved from survival mode to empire mode. For much of American history, Black business was about survival. about creating opportunities in a society that systematically excluded Black people from mainstream economic activity. Black businesses served Black communities because those were the only customers who would patronize them. Black entrepreneurs faced discrimination in lending, in contracts, in regulations, and in every other aspect of business operations. But Atlanta's Black dynasties represent something different. They're not just surviving, they're thriving at the highest levels. They're not just serving Black communities, they're building businesses that serve everyone and that compete successfully in mainstream markets. They're not just overcoming discrimination, they're building power and wealth that gives them influence over political and economic systems.